This is the November 18th Planning Board meeting. It's 7 p.m. in Sutton, Massachusetts. And in the general business, the first item I have on my agenda is the minutes from the November 4th, 2019 meeting. If I can get a motion to have them approved.
Motion to approve the November 4th board minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
I abstain.
Thank you.
Oh, I missed a order of business. Mr. Chairman, Marion Sanderson, our full member, is missing tonight. So which one of the two associates are you gonna tag in as a full member tonight?
Cosmo, I will be backup.
Okay.
I will be Robin to his Batman.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. Good job.
That's fine with me.
I'll end.
Okay.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is a filing for the earth removal permit for South Sutton, pine, sand, and stone.
All right, so you just have that one filing. As you recall, each year you have three primary commercial earth removal operations. There is pine, sand, and stone on land of Mary Bedoin in South Sutton. There is aggregate industries in Northeast Sutton, and there's also B&T earth removal in Northeast Sutton. I fully expect that as of the end of this year, aggregate will be asking for a closeout permit to close out their earth removal permanently. Worcester Sand and Gravel may also be looking for a closeout to close out their earth removal permanently, and therefore this will probably be one of the only active commercial earth removal permits that will remain in the town of Sutton. As most of you are aware, it's one of the first industries in the town of Sutton, from back in the 20s and 30s, really. So, this is their, the one active permit I expect to remain, has filed for this year's new permit, so we'll see them at the meeting on either December 2nd or December 16th. So if anybody wants to go on the site visit, if anybody's interested, let me know and I'll give you the date and the time, and you can go roam around in the dirt hills with me. Okay.
Are you actually gonna have a site visit?
Yeah, we always do, yep.
Okay, I'm in.
All right, Bill, got ya.
For the public, Sutton used to have an earth removal board. Because we have such good stuff in Sutton, we get credit for building the Mass Pike, for rebuilding Boston 20, 30, 40 years ago. And then all that building stopped. So the earth removal board used to meet, and there was no one coming in because there was no earth being removed. Construction had slowed. We were asked as a planning board to take over the duties of the earth removal board, and we're all team players, so I for one said yes, and anyone else that's on the board that hasn't gone to visit an earth removal operation is in for an education. There's a whole lot of stuff that I didn't know about, so it's worth going just to see what's going on. So Bill, you'll be pleased you went. If you've never done one.
I'll go. I've never done one.
And then all the things that they say when they come into us about earth removal makes sense, like the groundwater and how they monitor and stuff like that, and revegetation.
Just gonna email us one?
Yep, this is a better site too. It's not like Worcester Sand and Aggregate where you have to go through the prickers and stuff and kill yourself. This one's an easier site to put monitoring wells.
Yeah, let me know. I'll know.
We're gonna have a heck of a field trip.
Good.
And
Perks, all right. And we have Form A plans. We have, I want to acknowledge that we have a Form A plan for 57 Torrey Road.
So you'll recall, you had an earth removal, a retreat lot revision request that was, you approved, about a month ago. So that's run through its appeal period, and so tonight is the signing of the plan to make these two revised, one retreat lot, one standard lot. You need to sign that and sign the revised covenant that goes with this revised plan. So in your blue file folder with the minutes, is the revised covenant. You need a motion to approve that covenant and a motion to endorse that plan. And Byron Andrews is here from Andrews Survey and Engineering. If there's something, Byron, you wanna review with them before they make their motion?
No, I think Jen's explained it quite well. This is the street lot plan that you saw, several weeks ago, and, we've just revised that, after the approval of the retreat lot to an A&R plan.
The only thing we needed to add was a reference to the covenant, which has been added to the plan. So when you go to, the chairman is the only one that's gonna need to endorse that Form A, and we'll just insert the date from the covenant in that little blank there before you endorse. Trying to trick you, that's the little plant way, definitive plan, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so just two motions, motion to endorse the covenant, that basically says this now revised retreat lot shall never be further divided. And, a second motion to endorse the Form A plan dated, what's the latest revision date?
November 4th.
There you go.
Make a motion to endorse the covenant.
thank you. Your second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? You got it.
Alright, so there's the covenant, so now I just need the motion to endorse the plan dated 11/4/19.
I'll make a motion to endorse the plan dated 11/4/19.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Alright, so, just the chairman needs to sign the plan and insert the date of the covenant on the little floaty line. If you can't find it, I can do that. And then everybody needs, everybody needs to sign the covenant. Only the chairman signs the plan. So, that's right, covenant, everybody, plan, chair. So while they're signing, you had a question about retreat lots. You wanna address the board that question?
I did have a question, I've prepared an illustration here, and I've also made reduced size copies, so it might be a little clearer this way.
Jen, do you want this?
Yeah, please.
In this question, I'm representing, this Skitanis property, Peter Skitanis. The question I have is, we're proposing to divide the lots, these lots have already been divided, but we're proposing to reconfigure them, to have a standard lot here and a retreat lot here. The retreat lot would have, 240,000 square feet of area. You'll notice that, there's a wetland hatched in green that kind of bisects the lot. The town regulations say that the lot needs to have 3 times the lot area of a standard lot, and we meet that. It also says it has to have 3 times the buildable area of a standard lot. We have, 223,000 square feet of upland area, but it's divided into 3 sections. The bylaw, describing, retreat lots says, said lot shall have at least 3 times the required upland area. So it doesn't state whether it needs to be contiguous or not. So what I would like to do is ask the board's, view as to whether it needs to be contiguous or if it can be in separate sections. This area here needs 144,000 square feet of upland area, and this area here is about 126,000 square feet, so it's about 18,000 square feet short by itself.
I just wanna make sure I've got that right. You have two upland areas, one is 144,000 square feet and one is 126,000 square feet.
No, that's, the
No.
total upland area of three sections
Okay,
is,
223?
yeah, 223,000, it's either 213,000 or 223,000.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't write it down on here.
Uh-huh. So this part is how much?
This part is 126,000.
Okay. And then the rest, you didn't really measure, it's just the
Yeah,
balance.
I didn't separate those out.
Okay. So I've touched base with you guys on this just briefly in the past, and I have it on this year's list for bylaw changes to think about, because Byron Andrews isn't the first one to raise this question of what's the deal with the buildability requirement. So we have a buildability requirement. It's my understanding and recollection, when we put that in place, we required at least 60% of the required lot area in whatever district you're in has to be contiguous upland in which the house, the well, and the septic are located. And that was primarily to make sure you could meet Title V requirements for leach area, reserve, 100% reserve leaching. So in our biggest district of 80,000 square feet, that's about 48,000 square feet of contiguous upland area. Now, it's typical when you allow exceptions to your standard requirement, which in the rural residential where this lot is located would be 250 feet and 80,000, 250 feet of frontage along the road, and 80,000 feet of square feet, there's a trade-off. And our original trade-off with retreat lots was that you have to have 3 times the area, and that had to do a lot with the configurations of back lots we were seeing that had been used for cul-de-sacs and made into, 3-lot or 4-lot cul-de-sacs. So the trade-off originally was, yeah, you could have less frontage, but you have to have more area, because that was kind of what we were seeing out there, and to really kind of cut down on the number of those small cul-de-sac subdivisions, but still give somebody a return on their investment in the land or use of their land. It was only a few years ago that we also specified they had to have triple the upland. I've had conversations with multiple septic engineers since that time period, and there's just really a disconnect here. The 48,000 square feet is what is required for a single family home on any other rural residential lot. A retreat lot can still only have one house on it, so why do you need triple the upland area unless you're just trying to cut down on development, unless it's just an anti-development and anti-use kind of bylaw. So if that's the intent, is to really just cut down on the number of retreat lots, then we just need to own that we require not only triple the area, but triple the upland, because we just don't want as many of these. Because there isn't a scientific reason why you have to have triple the area for the exact same use as you otherwise need. So, so we need to talk about that and decide if we keep triple the area. And if you do, just own that. The only reason you would do triple the upland is because you just want to slow the number of retreat lots that are formed out there. That's just that. Or have them less wet, retreat lots less wet. So, so then that's kind of my thought on that. And then you can just go back to the literal reading of the bylaw and Byron's question, which is, as you stated, doesn't necessarily say it has to be contiguous. So what is your thought? I think we've been reading it that way, but as we found in a few bylaws lately, they don't always say exactly what we recall, that we being me, recall they said. So this one doesn't technically say it, so what do you think?
Well, Byron, thanks for coming in, and for the people that are here, because you've been watching at home and you wanted to participate. here's how it works. I'm the chairperson. I'll ask board members to tell us what they think. Then I'll ask you to tell us what you think, if you have something to say. And it'll come back to us, and we let Byron know which way the wind's blowing. This. Scott? why don't you
Seems to
start?
me that the underlying bylaw for 6 or 3 times the underlying zoning is sufficient land to be set aside, and so to me it doesn't make sense that the upland needs to be contiguous as long as the 200 by 200 foot square is available.
I would agree with Scott.
I was on the board when we created retreat lots. And I can remember the retreat lots were a reaction to a bunch of pork chop lots that were being built in Sutton, because they could draw lines and get the acreage they needed. And the retreat lot made sense that you didn't have to have 250 feet, but you had to give a lot more. And back then, and tonight coming in here, I thought it should stay that way, so I'm not on board yet. And we're not, it's not that I'm opposed to development, but certain parcels of land should be, we need to preserve open space and find ways to make sure that there's open space. I don't want to erode that, and that's just me personally.
I think my original thought on this is it would not need to be contiguous, since it doesn't say it in the bylaw. You know, I mean, if it did say it, would be tough to work around that, but because it is kind of open, I would think that would be okay when I'm hearing it, yeah.
I agree with both Scott, Mike, and Wally.
Thank you.
I agree. What were the issues, what were the issues other than with being contiguous in the retreat lot, Jen? I mean,
What do you mean?
when you said this popped up with other retreat lots.
Oh, does the triple the required, first off, why do you need triple the upland area when it's still the same use, one single family house? And then does it need to be contiguous?
I don't think
There's-
that, well, I think the way it's written is fine. I don't think it needs to be contiguous. I don't see any purpose in that.
I was just trying to find that
Because
section
you're
of the
gonna,
bylaw.
no matter what you have 3 times the area to do a second or third septic system down the road if you had to. You could also cross a wetland and put a septic on the other side of a wetland.
It's only money.
I got a friend of mine who has this, believe it or not, his trench with septic system is 100 yards long. It's not uncommon.
Okay.
All right.
Anyone in the public? Any comments? Words of advice? Make it so easy. All right. Any specific question, Byron?
I think it does.
Okay, thanks for coming in.
That question will come back at you when we talk about upcoming bylaw changes, whether you wanna leave that triple the upland in there, or leave it the way it is, and be able to choose contiguous or 200 by 200, or just scrap it and require 60% of the underlying zone in one year, which would be 48,000.
Okay, next on the agenda I have Prime Metals temporary natural gas installation. Someone here from?
No, I'm gonna actually tackle that one for you. So, in your file, you have an email, and I'll call it up on the screen as soon as I can figure out how to do that. Okay, here we go. As you are aware, Prime Metals was approved by you quite some time ago. And I worked with the company and the state to get a $2.3 million grant, to help pull natural gas to South Sutton Commerce Park. And the jobs and the tax base created with Prime Metals was the primary driver for the state agreeing to this grant. But one of the stipulations was that as soon as Prime Metals was ready for the heating season, they needed to be provided with natural gas, because not only do they heat with natural gas, but most of their machinery runs on natural gas. So, thank you. So, the heating season is upon us, and they are almost closed in over there. And the natural gas will not be completed. It was supposed to take 3 years. It will be completed well in advance of 3 years. It should be completed by August of 2021. But, so in the meantime, Eversource, who supplies the natural gas in the area, had to work with the town's fire department, building department, highway department, to come up with a solution to make sure Prime Metals had natural gas enough to heat and to potentially provide power for their equipment when they open early next year. So what you're seeing here is, you'll recall, there's the public Gilmore Drive that goes to a cul-de-sac in front of New England Disposal Technology that was accepted by the town. Then there was an extension, which is private, which goes all along the frontage of Prime Metals and serves as legal frontage for Lot 10, which is IBA. This drawing is of the private cul-de-sac. So the proposal is for a temporary compressed natural gas installation that would pipe directly right into the same connection that the permanent gas line will pipe into. And basically there would be these 2 trailers located fully, protected by fencing and bollards and all of the other things the fire department has called for. And basically those trailers are full of compressed natural gas tubes, 6 to 8 tubes, and they're hooked into a panel, and they just offload to the panel where the compression rate changes, and it's fed into the building to power and heat the building and the equipment within the building. I did send you an image of the size of one of these. You can see they're not very big, pretty small. And they would anticipate that as much as daily, depending on the heating season and the power draw, so like this time of year, maybe once a day, maybe once every other day, a pickup truck like this would pull in, drop a full container, latch to the empty container, pull it away. So you'd have a rotation once or so a day. Once they're up and operating, you may have these rotating out, each one rotating out each day. So this is a temporary installation. My thought is that it definitely does not need site plan approval. You can decide if you want to waive site plan review, or it's just a temporary use as approved by the fire department. But I wanted to make sure you're fully aware of it. This is a temporary change to a site plan that you've approved, and I wanted you to understand why it's there, how long it's there for, and what it's all about. And I also provided you with a bunch of emails and correspondence from the fire department approving the whole installation after significant consideration and filings. And I didn't give you the whole rest of the file, which is all of the specs on absolutely everything inside this little area. So, do you think it needs a site plan waiver? Do you think it's just a temporary use, no big deal? I just didn't, or are you just good to go with fire department approval? The building department I checked with, they said it's not a building code issue. They're aware of it. They sat in on the meetings. Highway department, this is a private road up here, so they were like, thanks for letting me know, but they're not maintaining this part of the roadway, so they're fine. One of the requirements before this becomes operational that the fire chief put in place is they'll actually have training here, so that everybody who on the crew, a certain core number of the crew have to attend, and then whoever else can attend, to become familiar with the compressed natural gas, hands-on, and see all about it. So they'll be doing training down there before it goes live.
So temporary is how long? Till that
Temporary should only be till August of 2021, but having been in the power industry for many moons, that it could run a little bit longer than that. my grant doesn't run much longer than that, so they've got a finite window in which they need to spend $2.3 million along with their, let me see, this is a $6 to $8 million project, this line project, so.
Well, it behooves them to get rid of those things, because it's gonna be more expensive to maintain this gas, so if that's what they have to do to run business,
Very expensive.
then so be it. They could also make this permanent. They
Yeah.
could have made this permanent, so I see no reason to have a site plan or anything else.
Thank you, Scott. Wally?
I would agree, I don't wanna do anything that's gonna interfere with their ability to get up online and get running. And this seems to be an important part of that, so as long as our safety people have signed off on it,
And they have,
go for it.
I want the record to show that I appreciate the planning board being kept in the loop. So we have to always set an example for other people who do field changes. And this isn't a little field change, but if the fire department says it's safe, then I'm fine with it. And it sounds like it'll make sense to get this temporary situation permanent sooner better than later. So I'm fine with it.
I would agree as well. The emails do talk about the fire personnel have looked at it and seem to be fine with it. The one thought I had when I saw the pickup truck moving these containers, I assume part of the planning is that whoever moves these containers in and out is
Yeah.
trained on that type of
Licensed, yeah.
license to move them, and,
Absolutely.
obviously, but.
Yeah, the good thing about CNG in general is that it takes this precise combination of air and CNG to ignite and a ignition source. So it's
Okay.
not normal for that to happen, obviously. And this one, the fire department required a myriad of safety features to just make sure there's kill switches and this and that and everything. That actually go right back to the fire department, report back to the fire department as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm fine foregoing site plan review and just temporary fire department. Yeah.
I concur.
I assume this is odorized material, so.
Right, as you know,
Right.
CNG has no smell, so they do inject the sulfur smell, so you can pick it up like that if you get any kind of leak. So when I said the fire department is to be notified, they often are only notified of like a collision where a kill switch they're being notified or require notification of everything. Any anomaly with these at all, they're to be notified, so I'm pretty confident.
But that just happens to be where the CNG line runs, right?
Yeah, the line runs.
That's already there.
The line actually will run, see the G right here? That's where the gas line will run. That's where the
Okay.
dry gas line is. So what they're doing is they're tapping into it. See right there?
All right, okay.
So they're tapping into it right here. CNG, natural gas line. They're tapping into it. So when this is all done, this line will go away. The center of all of this stuff will go away. The center of the island will be finished as it
Okay.
was approved in the site plan. And you'll just have gas flowing through that normal gas line, that dry gas line, as it was always meant to do. So there'll be no surface visual after these go away. You'll just have a nice little cul-de-sac with grass or whatever we expect to go in the middle of it.
Any concerns from the public? Okay, that gives you what we need?
Yep.
Okay.
Does.
I have correspondence other under general business, but I'm thinking we should go to the 7:10 public hearing.
Sure, we can do that. Come back.
And come back to that stuff, because that's just board stuff.
Mhm.
Have a public hearing for a site plan review for 1016 Galaxy Pass. And it's a car wash.
Alrighty.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Patrick Doherty. I'm a professional engineer with Midpoint Engineering and Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Baracus Development. I'm normally here on behalf of Galaxy Development. Tonight I'm here on behalf of Baracus Development with both modification of site plan and special permit approvals for phase 3 of Pleasant Valley Crossing. So also here tonight is Tammy Baracus, who would be the owner and operator, and Jay Gallant from Gallant Architecture, who has the building design.
Okay. Should we read the public hearing notice?
Yep.
I got it, you want it?
Yep.
Go ahead.
In accordance with provisions of the Sutton zoning bylaw 4C, site plan review, 5B, groundwater protecting district, and 5D, Route 146 overlay district, the planning board will hold a hearing on the applications of Baracus Development LLC of Millbury, Mass. Applications are relative to a 10 to 16 Galaxy Pass off 146 in Boston Road, known as Pleasant Valley Crossing Phase 3. The applicant proposes to modify the site plan by removing the proposed 5,500 square foot restaurant and constructing a full-service car wash facility in its place. The hearing will be held in Sutton Town Hall, 3rd floor, Monday, November 18th at 7:10.
Thank you, Bill.
So so the map I have in front of you is the plan that was approved by the board about a year and a half ago. It included a multi-tenant building and a freestanding restaurant on what was formerly known as the soccer field. So the multi-tenant building, the parking lot, the relocation of the Galaxy Pass driveway, that's all happened, and this building is up and the tenants are ready to open. The southern portion of the site was proposed as a freestanding restaurant and parking lot. So what we're here to talk about tonight is this portion. All the pavement and stuff is done over here, and actually part of the utility work is done over here, including light poles, the underground sewer runs through this portion of the site, and water was stubbed in during the construction of the multi-tenant building. So the proposal would be to remove that restaurant from the site plan, and in its place, we would have a full-service car wash that would also have detail days. The car wash would be fully automatic, would have a tunnel system, 110-foot long conveyor system. The circulation would be, coming through the driveway, you'd go towards Pleasant Valley Road, you'd turn into queuing lanes, you'd go through a point of sale or a gate system where you would pay by credit card or if you have an account, and then you would circulate to one end of the building, you get pulled through, and then you'd exit and go back out towards the parking lot. The circulation pattern would have the ability to queue about 16 cars, about 4 cars from the entrance to the car wash to the area where you would pay. And then there could be 2 lanes of travel that would accommodate about 6 cars each. The plan would be to have 1 lane open on normal days, and during some peak times of the year, both the lanes would be operating. So most times of the year, there would be a bailout area if you were in line and needed to leave. It would be fully staffed. It's not going to be a 24-hour, go as automatic where there's no staff. There would be staff there at all times, and Ms. Baracus would be on site most of that time. Some of the differences between the existing proposed plan, the amount of impervious coverage is nearly the same. I think there's a slight decrease of about 500 or 600 square feet of pavement areas. Being a car wash, the parking requirements are much less, so there's 40 less parking spaces on this plan as opposed to the restaurant plan. It's all fully compliant with zoning. As I had mentioned, the utilities are in place for the most part. The lighting that was installed, if it were to be a restaurant, is just so lining up so that it's in islands, and that those light poles that we constructed are going to remain. The sewer is located on the back of the site. We'd be easily able to tie into that. It's going to be a modern car wash system. It's going to reclaim much of the wash water. All the washing is done inside the building. There'll be internal drains that will capture all the wash water. It'll go through settling tanks and oil water separators, and at the last tank, water will be pumped back into the wash system. We have met with the ZBA, one meeting, we are continued to December 5th. This is a special permit use requiring ZBA review. We've met with the Wilkinsonville Water District, they've approved this change. There's actually gonna be a reduction in the amount of water used, on an average basis as compared to a restaurant. And we've also asked the sewer department if there's any concerns with wash water entering the sewer system, and we've got a letter back from them saying that there's no concerns. So, we feel this is a less intense use that we'd still be in compliance with the special permits that were granted. One part that will have to be reviewed is the building architecture that is required under the 146 overlay district special permit. I did receive comments from staff. The comments can be addressed by simple plan changes. However, there is a waiver request we need to make. The original approvals granted a waiver for maneuvering aisles and parking within the setback areas. We've got a 50-foot setback requirement to Pleasant Valley Road being a front yard, even though it's, I guess, the back of the project. And we've got a 20-foot set yard requirement to the adjacent vacant property. The original approval granted a waiver to allow the maneuvering aisle within 20 feet, or up to 20 feet of the setback, and up to the 10 feet for a portion of the area where the project abuts the vacant parcel. So we would maintain the waiver on the front yard setback, and we've actually increased the required waiver for the distance to the abutting lot. We'd have 10 foot there. That's going to allow a bypass lane to get around the building, as well as line up with the dumpster that's already been constructed in accordance to the original plan. We feel this is justified. Part of the justification before was that, a large portion of the property is resource areas. There is upland area, towards Boston Road. However, we've kind of scrunched the project away from the resource area as much as possible, and that's required development in the setback lane. This is a vacant property, so that, if this were to be developed, they would be coming to the board and they would have their own, setback requirements. So, if we have 10 foot here and they were required their 20, or, if they requested a waiver to get to 10, there would still be an adequate buffer between properties. And it's likely that, development would occur concurrently with ours due to curb cuts and utilities. And in that case, it would be subject to planned unit development that setbacks are minimized. So with that, I can turn it over to
I just had one question, Patrick. You laid in some lot lines a while ago here, so what are your thoughts on the lot line that kind of runs along the front of that lot on Galaxy Way, and that circulation is in that front setback from that lot line too, right?
Yeah, the 146 overlay district has a provision, I don't know the exact verbiage, but for internal lot lines, for setbacks to not be required.
Right, and does that, to your recollection, hold true within the parking regulations too? Or should we just make sure, if there's any in that side as well, which there were before, I think, in greater numbers with the restaurant, that we take care of that as well?
Not sure of the no, I don't think that the internal lot would require a variance. It's developed as a single unit.
And definitely under the 146 overlay. I'm just thinking about section 3B, the parking regs, setback from property line. I'm just wondering there, so in which case we might just wanna vote it anyways. Cause I think you have more in there with the restaurant before, right?
Yeah, with the we'd be at a similar setback with the restaurant.
Exactly, yep.
We had 5 in there.
You're right.
And there was five went away, so.
You've taken some out, added some to on that if we needed to consider. There is a lot line that runs along Galaxy Drive, and as Patrick noted, the Route 146 overlay says you really don't see those internal lot lines, but the parking regulations require setbacks from lot lines, so I just wanted to make sure if that was in violation, that we granted that waiver as well.
And just to bring the board up to speed, there's several property lines, and this is kind of the overall plan as approved. So, you know, the first project was subdivided into 3 lots, being lot 3, which included the supermarket, the bank, and you know, the Five Guys and the Starbucks buildings, and that property line came around here and straight back. Lot 2 was, includes, you know, what was approved as a home improvement retail building and the driveway. And then lot 1 was the rear undeveloped area that, you know, thought is that we would do a residential portion of it. So this would be lot 4 of the, you know, the common development. So there's an internal lot line that Jen was describing between this property and our driveway. But there is provisions in the overlay district where you have separate properties under common ownership or operation with easements, then the internal setbacks requirements go away.
Yeah. And I would agree with that under the 146. My question was relative to the parking, section 3B, the parking requirements. Sorry, that require a particular setback from lot lines. That we just handle that now if there's a violation there, which I think there may be.
Do you own the lot to the right?
No, this is still,
That's not yours.
this is
Okay.
So we also received comments from Graves Engineering. So this plan I have a full set of plans and electronic copy that I sent to Jim earlier that
You should have
address
those all on your iPad now.
address Jeff's comments, and you know, there was some grading tweaks and things of that nature, labeling corrections that I had made to those plans, and then Jen had requested that we include some waivers, and I provided a response to her comments as well.
I think that was actually, that was the only waiver you needed, wasn't it?
Yeah, you had brought up the landscape plan wasn't stamped, but you know, the final plans would be sealed by a landscape architect.
Okay.
There was another,
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, there were a few more comments, but I think you addressed them all, and we were just left with the parking circulation waiver.
all right, and Jay is here to, if you have any site questions, we can do that separately, or Jay could finish the presentation on the building.
Any board members have any questions, comments?
Right now.
Anyone in the public have any concerns?
Question, is it gonna be what's called a net zero discharge system? Are you referring to the reclaim system there?
It's about 60% recycled water.
60%?
About 70, yeah.
Yeah.
And it is adjustable so that you can increase the reclaiming, you know, until you.
Anything
yeah,
else?
so-
They've ever consent to a net zero discharge? It's a very easy thing to do. It's a responsible growth for the car wash industry to be able to keep people moving forward with sustainable growth, and also insulating from municipal action and drought situations with the water being in effect. It's such a cost-effective, easy thing to do. The technology is so there. Most municipalities are mandating it now.
Need your name for the record. Your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian Fitzgerald.
We're proud of you. Thank you, Brian, for coming in. All right.
And I see Ms. Barakis writing down some.
I'm writing down.
Certain research, yeah.
It's a good thing, you know, a lot of people that sell the chemicals, I've consulted hundreds of car wash applications that are existing in new construction. New construction, it's an easy thing to do. I've operated them before, I've built them before. Once it's an existing operation, it's very hard to do it, and it's really for sustainable growth in the industry. You really need to follow certain guidelines, especially, and it's a good marketing tool with the green related industry as well, so.
Are we looking to
else?
No,
I have a question, Bob.
go ahead.
So, in general, we lost a restaurant, but we gained a car wash.
Yeah, and I, you know, I can, you know, I was gonna, at the end of the presentation, we haven't necessarily lost a restaurant. We have, you know, refrained from doing anything in what we call the home improvement area. You know, because we didn't have, enough tenant interest to start constructing over there. It looks like we do now, and this winter, we're gonna be submitting revised site plans for this portion. Our hope has always been to bring a restaurant in here. We think that it goes well together with all the other uses there, and, you know, we don't understand why we haven't been able to attract one now, but, you know, as we get more businesses up and running, you know, there's certainly gonna be a, you know, or at least in our mind, that there's certainly be attractive area for a restaurant, so we will be, you know, re-permitting a restaurant so that it's available for someone as, you know, as soon as there is interest, and we do have, you know, some uses that will be ready to go, so over this winter, we will be, you know, bringing revised plans to this board.
But we can only deal with what comes to us.
Right.
I mean, we can't, site plan review, groundwater, and the 146 overlay district. We as a board can't just say, no, let's hold out for a restaurant, you know, you go home. And then you come back with a restaurant. I just want everybody to be
Clear
clear.
on that, yes.
No, we don't have that
Cannot do
control.
that. No, and we've talked in recent months about all the things that drive chains in particular to wanna locate in an area, and a lot of that is visibility, location. But the other things that drive that are the radiuses that they look at in their formulas in terms of housing density, population density, business worker density. And as we bring on more companies like Prime Metals with 270-something employees, as we bring on IBA and their employees into our area, as we bring on projects like the 93 units of housing right across the street at Armsby Road, those are all things I keep Galaxy and other developers apprised of, because those are all things that they can then go back to the chains in particular that need the numbers to make the numbers work. Because if the numbers don't work, they're not coming. They have a formula that says something's sustainable. And so that's why, you know, housing and job creation is not only important for that tax base and the jobs, but it drives things like restaurants and local services that people don't even think about. You know, and then you have the double-sided of, you know, when you have more business, then you typically want some housing for those workers to live in your town or in the area as well. So they kind of help each other out, so. That's-
Symbiotic.
Yeah, and that's been my discussion, not just with Galaxy, but other development firms, and why they haven't been able to pull restaurants, and what those restaurants are often looking for, just more of a critical mass. And location.
5 years ago, maybe even longer, there was planned development on both sides of the highway.
Mm-hmm.
And 146 was redesigned, and the developer on the opposite side came in quite upset because we hadn't provided the left-hand turn. And I remember saying, you haven't put a shovel in the ground yet. These people have, so this fish is on the line. And we also had Patrick in here asking what's going on, because the clock was ticking and we want businesses in Sutton. And they've been very honest about the fact that there's a lot of people that come in and talk about renting space, but they need, a pen has to hit paper and money needs to change hands. And that hasn't happened. I can't remember who it was, but we had a board member who wanted very much to have Trader Joe's.
And we marketed
was
heavily to Trader Joe's,
was
boy, I'll tell
insulted.
ya.
And that Trader Joe's responded, I forget who it was, that there isn't enough money, and the income in Sutton's wrong. We couldn't support it, and he was insulted to hear that.
Now our
But
income's good, but our critical
Trader
mass
Joe
isn't.
just said, no, you're not. So even if they, so there's challenges here. But I
We think we're
appreciate-
awesome, but not everybody
Yeah.
sees it the same way.
Well, I think, you know, the Brickstone, or you know, on the southbound, I think they're doing pretty well. And, you
Doing
know,
really well.
That's something that, you know, other restaurants can look at and say, you know, that little small restaurant's doing well, you know, maybe we can do the full size,
Yeah.
you know, over there with a little bit better access, so. You know, I think that everything's moving in the right direction. Eventually we'll be there.
So just so I'm clear, we're looking at this under vehicle and automotive uses, number 3, which is a special permit by the ZBA.
Right,
Yeah.
so as Patrick said, they've gone through the first night, hopefully we'll finish with them on the 5th, is that the date?
Yes, the ZBA, for 2 reasons. One is our original submission had a different layout for the building, so they didn't have the current plan. But they also, we had told them that Wilkinsonville had approved it at the meeting, but they wanted the letter for the file as well as some correspondence from sewer. So, you know, I got the feeling that you know, they were accepting of the proposal, that we should be all set on December 15th.
And how does that compare to what a restaurant would use, the gallons used per day? It was 3,000?
Yeah, the estimate for a sit-down restaurant was about 7,000 gallons a day, and this uses with the reclamation, or the reclaiming process was about 3,800, and it'll probably go down further from that with the system.
So, you have a few things before you, but let's look at the architecture before we get into those.
Looks like Sutton.
Where is it? There's your car wash elevations, there we go. Come on. There it is.
Hi, my name's Jay Gallant. I'm an architect working with Tammy to help bring her vision of bringing a beautiful car wash to Sutton into reality. And so first of all, what you see on the screen and what you might have in your packet and what we're presenting today is slightly different, at least the color of the building, partially based on comments from Jen, partially based on some prototypes that we found that, I don't know, seemed a little more interesting. So the idea is we're really trying to create a beautiful, simple building that's somewhat unique but contextual. So the idea is to use a board and batten concept for the siding. We're looking at hardy board just because it's a little more durable, less maintenance, holds color really well. You know, it's an exposed building and lots of cars around it. You know, we just want to kind of build something that's going to be easily enough to keep looking the way it does on day one. So, and then darker colors for a few different reasons seem to go really well with the idea of simplicity and a nice kind of stately building. The idea here is to create a 2-story building where, as Patrick said, the main part of the car wash is 110 feet, which will allow full service. There's actually a similar facility that we visited in Rhode Island, and it's really nice. It's I don't know. I've been to a bunch of different car washes, but none as nice as that one, and this is going to be nicer than that. So it's a really good thing, as we've talked about tonight. And there's an adjacent equipment room where all the different pieces that run the car wash itself will be directly adjacent to it. And then the detail bays on either side, and then kind of a nice little lobby waiting room, kind of comfortable area where people can wait generally to have their detailing done in their cars, but that's the general reason why they would be there. And then on the second floor, for part of it, an office for the folks that own and operate the car wash. So that would be kind of facing Galaxy Pass. So in this drawing here, Galaxy Pass is right here, and so you would see as you drive towards Starbucks and Five Guys and Market 32, you'd see the entrance to the car wash where you drive in, and that's where the sign would be. It didn't come out very well on this printout, but kind of right at the gable facing the street would be a fairly simple sign, just 75 square feet, not fancy lighting or anything, just simply stating what the simply stating what the car wash is, and some simple lighting around it, lots of glass, trying to really create a nice, attractive building that'll say what it is, but not in a real aggressive way. And I'm just trying to also keep that same language around the building, so facing, I guess, Pleasant Valley Road would be the detail bays, detail bays with glass doors and windows. Again, just trying to have a nice kind of elegant concept that'll be a nice way to highlight the existing buildings that are there, and that's the idea.
Any comments from board members?
Well, I would just say I mean, when I originally saw the pictures, it's really nice looking, you know, I mean, it was like, oh, it doesn't look like a car wash to, you know, I thought it was a nice looking design, I mean, to start off with, I thought, yeah.
Anyone else?
I'm sure you went back and forth with him on,
A little bit.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you did. That's you.
I worked with him in the past, so
Forte.
he kinda knows where I'm gonna come from anyways. I did beat him up on throwing some stone in there somewhere, so it ties to the other buildings in the project. And the darker color he's talking about, I assume is an homage to my comments that the color of this building should kinda tie to the panels on the front of the grocery store a little bit, so just to try to tie them together. We've
Yeah,
got a
that was
little
gonna be my
disconnect
comment.
going with the dialysis building, not really kinda going with other things, 'cause
The Market 32 is a pretty inspiring building, at least with some of the uses of materials, and so trying to work with that.
So,
Yeah, that'd be my one comment, was to, how's it gonna tie in with all the other buildings there? You don't want something that looks way different out of the league than what everything else there looks like, but I think it looks nice.
Good job, Jen.
On the board, we've always put pressure on, well, when we created the overlay district, one of the things that, we fought hard for was to make sure that people, had a sense of Sutton and the Blackstone Valley when they came into Sutton. We wanted things to look like, they belonged here. When the bank, what's the bank on the corner?
Bank America.
The first design of that bank was all glass. I remember saying, it looks like George Jetson would be banking there. It doesn't look like it belongs in Sutton. And to our surprise, I thought maybe they were gonna leave and everyone would be mad because we weren't gonna have a bank in town. They came back with the stone and the pitched roofs. They drove around Sutton and said, we can't believe how many houses have different pitched roofs. There's cupolas every time you turn around, so this looks a lot like a barn to me.
Yeah.
A cupola would really be the frosting on the cake, but that's your money, not mine.
What would be the
Because it looks like a barn.
Trade you that for the stone?
Yeah, but that's, well done.
Definitely the barn theme is.
Yeah, no,
Where you're going.
If it had a cupola, it would certainly be a barn.
You're right.
My 2 cents. Anyone else? Comments from the public? Okay.
Alright, so we have a few things for you to, I'll tell you what the action items need to be, and you decide how you wanna do them and when you wanna do them. Alright, so you have the waivers, there's 2 different sections to get waivers from for parking and maneuvering in the setbacks. So you just need one motion to grant that waiver. And you can do that at any point. You need to do that before you take action on any of the other permits you're gonna grant. And then we have the amendment to the site plan, the amendment to the groundwater special permit, the amendment to the Route 146 special permit. And on both of those special permits, you just need to think about your general reasons why, not so much tonight, but in past nights with this public hearing, you've found that the project in general met the criteria of all the criteria in the groundwater protection bylaw and in the Route 146 overlay bylaw. So I'm just clear that you've considered those things in the past mainly, and in addition to thinking about them tonight with minor revisions here, except for an architecture, and that you think it's appropriate to grant things as is, with conditions, or disapprove for some reason. You can also, if you're going to grant any approvals for, I don't think groundwater protection really needs to be contingent on anything the zoning board is doing. I also don't think the Route 146 overlay needs to be any contingent on anything the zoning board's doing. You can even grant site plan review contingent on the zoning board granting the use variance, or you can hold that until after the zoning board is done with their permit. But you can do anything contingent if you want. But in the
Chairman.
lease, I would go with the waivers, take care of the waivers, and then decide what you wanna do with those 3 other permits and when you wanna do that. And I have given you minimum conditions of approval. You know the drill on those. You can pick and choose for each permit. You can vote all the permits and the approvals at once and just do all of these, or
Scott?
I'm sort of the opinion here that we should hold off until the zoning board of appeals allows this use. There's no sense in going through all these motions if that's denied.
Could I, there is a financial incentive to get this project, started sooner rather than later, so the applicant was hoping to break ground even if it needs to be in January, so we're, in this case, because of the time of year, we were hoping to actually, have approval sooner rather than later.
When does the zoning board meet again?
That's December 5th.
right, and then there's an appeal period, and then we don't meet again until the 18th, and then there's a 20-day appeal period on those permits. For the special permits, not on site plan approval.
For the use.
But for the use, for the 146 overlay and the groundwater protection, those all have appeal periods. The site plan review does not have an appeal period. So you could hold that one. That would be the least onerous to hold.
This is more of a timing issue than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in discussion with the Secretary for the Zoning Board of Appeals, the impression that Patrick's given you on kind of where the zoning board is, I find very consistent with what their secretary said, that, they don't really have an objection to this. They just wanted to dot their i's and cross their t's in terms of the water district, the sewer departments,
We
in
have the,
particular.
letters from the water district approving.
Right, which they didn't have that night.
So we have the letter approving from the water district and from the sewer, so.
As we, to make a decision, 100% recycling, is that something that you're interested in doing? It certainly makes me happy. I'm a water guy. I like to make sure it's all used appropriately and reusing all of it. If that's economically feasible, it's certainly environmentally sound and responsible.
Yeah, I'm certainly interested in doing that. The numbers we gave you are just what the manufacturer of the car wash equipment gave us for general numbers for their systems. But we don't have to use that system.
I remember they had some reasons for wanting to bring fresh water in, but maybe there's a way to work with that recycling system to.
It's important stuff to me
enhance it
personally.
Yeah.
But that's stuff that I think about constantly.
Jay makes a good point. I'm not sure it's feasible. I mean, would take a little bit of research, because if you're continually only using recycled water, eventually it's not that clean. It's really hard to clean it completely. So you do bring some fresh water into the system that we're looking at.
Unless there's a way to change, we have to figure that out.
Yeah, there's not a way.
There's, and not an expert, but there's a space shuttle. It's in the sky right now, and they're recycling everything. They don't stop and hook up to anything. They don't have windows, and stuff gets thrown out. So the technology is there. I know that. It's just, it probably costs money to make it here.
Probably a bigger budget.
Yeah, they have a budget.
Does have a budget, yes. And we do not require 100% recycling, but it is an awesome concept.
I mean, the other point, I don't know if you'd wanna maybe just exchange numbers with the gentleman in the back who has some knowledge of it, might be able to give you some leads, just to think about, again, if it's,
Right.
he might have some ideas that have worked and,
Yeah.
if he's willing to talk back,
Okay.
Well, I'm ready to move forward,
Yeah.
whatever
So
the
we
board
should make
wants.
the motions on the two setback waivers first.
Yeah, you can just do those in one
So,
motion.
can I make a motion to grant the setback waivers?
Mhm. For circulation and parking in the
For cir-
setback per the plans.
Yeah.
Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, Wally. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Alright, so what do you wanna do about those other three?
And that's the site plan review?
You have two special permits first, and then site plan review last. So you have a Route 146 overlay, so an amendment basically to the Route 146 overlay permit you previously granted, because you have a new building with new architecture, some minor changes to your landscaping. That's the kind of the meat of the 146 overlay stuff.
Then you have the
And then
groundwater.
the groundwater protection, you have some minor changes to stormwater. Actually, do you have any changes, minor?
Yeah, just locations of catch basins,
Right.
there's a large underground recharge system that was, sized to accommodate 500 square feet more in places, so
this
nothing
is-
really needed to change, just some locations of the catch basins that, in new low spots.
So that special permit is really about protecting the Zone 2 public water supply wellhead in which this project is mainly located, and which is the main reason why Graves Engineering reviewed this revised plan and went over stormwater calculations and those adjustments. So, so you have those two permits, again, that deal really with architecture and groundwater protection, not really things that the zoning board is looking at, although Scott's point that if there's no use, why worry about the permits is certainly
So
well
can
made,
we-
but. And then there's site plan review, and you know that, it's all the details.
Do we have two findings?
I would
For the special
recommend,
permit?
because this is a special permit, it's not the special permit for use where we make those 5 findings.
Okay.
But I would recommend on both of these that, you just acknowledge that the groundwater protection bylaw is, I believe, 6 pages long, and it has a number of requirements. And you previously went through all of those requirements and made sure that what was proposed was compliant. Your consulting engineer took this plan, and I took this plan, and went back through those requirements, and basically found that this revised project is in compliance with all of the standards. The Route 146 overlay bylaw is 10 pages long. You previously found that, the project was in compliance with the standards on those 10 pages, so we don't wanna do 10 pages worth of findings, I don't think. But you definitely would wanna acknowledge, maybe in your motion, or as I'm doing right now, if everybody's in agreement, that, we have previously found, the board has previously found that the project as presented is in compliance with all of the myriad of criteria in the Route 146 overlay bylaw, and this revision continues to be in compliance with all those individual standards.
Would you like to make that motion, Bill?
I can't because I'm not on the board yet.
I will,
I wish I could.
I'll make a motion to grant a special permit for the groundwater protection, having previously found that it is in compliance with, what was it?
All the specific
All the
special
specific
permit standards
special
in that
permit
bylaw.
standards, so I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Got that. We also need one for the.
I will,
Well, the one thing we should have done on that, sorry, is, you should have had at least one condition on that one.
contingent upon,
On the cleaning of the, did I put that in here? Oh, boy, did I not put that in here? You have, storm scepter units on this site, right? The storm scepter units are the special catch basins that, like, when oil and stuff runs into them, it gets caught, it doesn't go into the groundwater, and they have to be maintained. I think you guys maintain them like quarterly, in the least every 2 years, so we should probably just make sure there's a condition in there that they maintain the stormwater system and that those reports are submitted to us along with any remediation.
I'll make that change to my motion.
And are you okay with that change to the second, Scott?
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
make the motion to approve this, or grant a special permit for the Route 146 overlay, having previously found that it meets all the nitty-gritty and,
All the 10 pages
all the
of
10
criteria.
pages of criteria.
Yeah, so then just go to page 2 of my memo and decide if any of those conditions are appropriate. And I'll show you those in case you wanna look at them. Here's the minimum conditions.
The 9 minimum conditions.
There were 9, they don't all relate to the Route 146 overlay, a lot of them do. And there might be 1 or 2 that I didn't think of. Number 5 is about 146 overlay, that's maintenance of the plantings. Number 6 is about 146 overlay, that's maintaining those directional arrows on the ground. 7 is 146 overlay. 8 is 146 overlay. And then 9 you should just have in all of these approvals actually as well.
So, let me remake my motion. I make a motion to grant a special permit for Route 146 overlay amendment, having previously found that it meets all the criteria in the 10-page long
Bylaw.
146 overlay bylaw, with the minimum conditions that the applicant shall ensure proper maintenance of plantings on site, include immediate replacement of dead or diseased plantings unless it is winter or summer, in which case immediately in the following planting season. The applicant shall ensure proper maintenance of the directional arrows and parking lot striping so that they remain clearly visible. The board reserves the right to review landscaping and or lighting post-installation and require additions to achieve the intent of the bylaws. Prior to insurance of sign permits, the applicant shall submit any sign details not shown on the site plan to the planning department. Said submittals shall be reviewed and acted on in compliance with the sign bylaw and the Route 146 overlay district bylaw criteria. Signage must not obstruct sight distance. The bottom of the lowest part of the sign shall be at least 6 feet above the adjacent roadway. And all other conditions in previous approvals for Present Valley Crossing remain in full force and effect.
Thank you. Need a second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
There's 5 for 9.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
Now you decide if you wanna do site plan review. If you wanna do site plan review, you have to add number 10, that it's contingent on the zoning board granting the special permit for the use. If you don't get the use, all is for naught. But that's up to you. And if you don't wanna do that, then you need a motion to continue this to the 18th of December.
So the site plan review doesn't have an appeal period, so that wouldn't hold up if needed. Do we wanna make the motion with that contingency, or hold off on that one?
Can if you like.
Guess I can make the motion, then we can decide if we don't wanna do it, right?
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve site plan review with, should I read through all the minimum conditions of approval?
Well, you read through.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
So,
Yeah.
make that motion with, prior to endorsement of site plan, reference to any waivers granted and all conditions of approval shall be listed on the plans. Within 10 days of endorsement, the applicant engineer shall submit 3 complete prints of the endorsement site plans and 1 electronic copy to the Sutton Planning Office. Prior to commencement of construction on the site, all required approvals and or permits shall be received from the applicable permitting authorities. Within a month of completion of construction, the applicant shall submit to the planning board an as-built plan and written certification from the project's engineer that the entire site has been constructed substantially in accordance with the site plan. The 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9, which were in the groundwater, or 146 overlay, and then a 10th contingent on zoning board granting usage.
Then there's the scepter maintenance,
Oh, the
scepter
storm
catch
scepter
basin.
maintenance,
Storm
yeah.
scepter maintenance,
Okay.
number 11.
Thank you.
11 conditions.
Need a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I think we should, go ahead and vote on it. I think, given the preliminary zoning board discussions that Jen has relayed, to let them coordinate all that's happening, seems that, I think we should take the vote today.
Yeah, I think we have both the sewer department and Wilkinson Water approval letters here with us that they were waiting on just to cross their T's and dot their I's, so.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
Thank you very much.
I have a
Thank you.
motion
Thank
to close that hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get your special
We have
permits
planning
on
board
file
time
this
now.
week, and then you'll have a 20-day appeal period on this for those special permits.
7:25 planning board time.
7:25 planning board time. We have a special permit for 166 Eight Lots Road. It's an accessory apartment.
Want me to read it?
Yeah.
Have
go
the
ahead.
hearing notice, yes.
Good evening, my name is Jeff Kamoli.
Hang on one second.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
let-
just gonna read the
I'll let
notice
Mike
real
read the
quick and then
notice.
you'll.
You're on, stay right there.
Excited.
In accordance with the provisions of section 6L of the Sutton zoning bylaw, accessory apartment bylaw, the planning board will hold a public hearing on the application of Jeffrey Camoli, 166 Eight Lots Road, Sutton, Mass, to create a 690 square foot accessory apartment in the existing detached garage barn. The hearing will be held at the Sutton Town Hall, 3rd floor on Monday, November 18th, 2019, at approximately 7:25.
Hi.
Nice to have it be a Brock's.
That's with Bob, that's a Bob.
I do have two images that are up on the screen from Google. They're not great. Jeff probably has better ones.
If you're here for this, can you see the screen? If you can't, probably move your seat. You can, okay. Yeah, well, that's fine. And make sure I speak loud enough. I was told I didn't talk loud enough at the last meeting, so if you can't hear me, say something. All right.
Thank
Hi.
you. So my name is Jeff Kamoli from 166 Eight Lots Road, along with my wife and family. So we're looking to build an accessory apartment on the first floor of this structure, this existing structure. We were initially doing some investigation. We understood that the guidelines said on line H that there needed to be a 50-50 split between the garage space and then storage space. So as we were thinking about that, our initial plans were to reconstruct that from a salt block style to a gambrel style. So we were hoping not to do that. We were looking for a waiver to change that 50-50 split to maybe 65-35, so we can keep the integrity of the salt block style, so that it stays in line with what the landscape looks like, the existing house, and the overall look of the property. So that's our first
So what was in the submittal is the gambrel that you're talking about, right? And this would be the second floor, right? And then you would maintain the two parking spaces, or a parking space and storage there. It looks like two parking spaces on the first floor. And that would raise up the structure to a higher height, and so it would kind of look like the house.
Correct.
You see, you've got that, you can kind of see it behind the tree there. You've got that same roof line on the house, as would be on the proposed garage. So now, you wanna do something different.
So we were thinking is that if we were allowed a waiver for that 50-50 split, to have the living space in the first floor, leave the second floor as is for storage / garage space, which would reduce, obviously, construction, because we'd just be closing in the first floor, and then more importantly, the outside would remain the same, look, and preserve that look. Also, building a gambrel style seems to be a very large building, and I don't think it falls in line with the guidelines of treating it as a supplemental, additional, smaller building, not like a separate house on the same property.
This kind of consideration came after your last meeting, where you were talking to some people on, I forget what road it was, where she had the existing structure and was granted multiple waivers to allow a larger square footage and blah, blah, blah. So, this applicant saw that there was some flexibility when you're talking about kind of meeting and maintaining the intent. which is why he's provided a filing to you that's compliant, but is now trying to get a read from you on how you feel about if he changed this to keep it a much smaller project, and just go with what you see on the drawings he's gave you, but making that the apartment with some space upstairs. Do you have a rough idea of what the total square footage would be?
So the existing square footage in the first floor is 798 square feet.
Mhm.
Second floor is around 320.
So you just,
Of the existing.
Exactly.
right. So this basically would become the first floor. And then you just have storage directly accessible from inside or from the outside you'd have to go.
We'd be open to either way. So on one of the drawings, it shows 2 sets of stairs outside on that Gan Road drawing.
Yep.
And that just seems excessive. We would definitely be in the back of the house, obviously. We'd need obviously 2 egresses if the apartment was on the second floor. So it got us thinking that could we move to the first floor and not have so much disruption in the style, first of all, and just the overall look of the structure. So we would be able to access it from the inside of the apartment, or put one set of staircases to the second floor.
Well, if you add 798 and 320, you're under 1,200 square feet anyways, so you wouldn't need to restrict anything. Cause the total's still under 1,200.
Good job, Jeffrey. Let me ask the board members to weigh in, ask the public to weigh in. Move this off our agenda. Bill,
So what
what do you think?
I think you lose your garage.
So we have a 2-car garage currently in our house, basically.
Okay. I don't know, what's the, I'm trying to grasp the intent of the bylaw. I think I was on the board when we did these, and I forget.
It was, alternate forms of housing, really.
Right.
It really strikes out at affordable housing that's not permanently protected unless somebody wants to deed restrict it. But it's,
I certainly understand
aging population.
not to exceed 1,200 square feet,
Right, subordinate to the main home.
but I'm trying to grasp the reason for the 50%, no more than 50% of a detached accessory structure.
I don't remember either, other than people were a little gun shy about, in effect, having
Just
two
adding it up.
houses sitting there, in effect, that it had to be a house and something else, like it had to be a barn, or it had to be a garage and something else in it. People were uneasy with you saying, you can have a house, and you can have a little house.
Right, that's okay.
They were uneasy with that, so we were like, all right, so you can have a house, and you can have a little house that's part of a barn or a garage and keeps looking like a barn or a garage.
It's been a long process for the planning board, and I'm proud to say that I think we've done well. The accessory apartments basically came about because the police department, the fire department, when they get calls, there's something that they need to come to a house for an emergency. They're aware of the fact that there's 2 families, there's Ma's living downstairs or so because of that, we as a board, we decided not to have a witch hunt. We were gonna draw a line in the sand. There's a specific date where we said, from this point forward, we're going to allow accessory apartments. You need to come in. We worked on some numbers, but it was very important that people who lived in Sutton and bought houses that appeared to be single-family houses, it has to look like that. Couldn't change it too much. In our first attempts, we thought we were brilliant. The first half a dozen of people that came in, the numbers didn't work. They couldn't do it. The numbers were off. So as a board, we said, well, clearly, it's a good idea, but we have to allow them to be a little bit bigger, so people can actually follow the rules and come in and build accessory apartments. They're not in-law apartments. There's had long discussions about that. So we find ourselves here tonight in, as Bill says, and this is the world we live in now, where accessory apartments in Sutton exist, and they have separate addresses, and when the call comes, they know exactly where to go, because seconds matter. for myself, I mean, I'll ask other board members to weigh in. Using the existing structure, if you can accomplish what you want, how can anyone driving by say it looks different than it did before? Someone's living in the, and it was the garage, or this was an outbuilding, apparently.
Good point, Bob. Good point.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, using the existing building, I think granting a waiver for the area is definitely.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I mean, I think it's a nice looking little structure. Kind of fits with the house you already have. If it went to the original plans, it would look like a second house more. Again, my only concern, but I think you've kind of talked about it, was whether in this type of structure, part of it has to be still a barn or a garage, but it sounds like we're really not tied into that. But I think it's a nice looking structure as it is. I mean, it fits well, so.
What?
I think this is an improvement over what I looked at prior, all those stairs and everything else, just the whole scope of it. This looks like it fits, excuse me, fits the, your property in the area.
Looks like Mechanics Hall.
Scott?
Yeah, I think this number 2 is to encourage better utilization of existing housing stock while maintaining the appearance and character of the town's single-family neighborhood. So keeping that the way it is and utilizing it, to me, seems like, because it's an existing structure, makes sense.
So Jen.
So wait a minute. So my question back to you is, because I know this has come up really recently, is how confident are you that you can establish this floor plan in this building and not change anything about this?
The overall appearance.
Yes.
So when we had the architect draw this floor plan,
Uh-huh.
we said take the exact square footage downstairs, and we were under the 50-50 rule assumption, and bring that upstairs.
Okay.
So we believe we can bring it downstairs and be 99.9% the same exact footprint.
That's great. I'm just thinking about window locations, that this clearly has a garage door on the front of it, how, this looks
Right.
like an outbuilding.
Okay, for
So
outside
now-
appearances, good point. So our intent actually was to leave the garage door and reframe a wall inside, so it still looks like, exactly as it looks like today.
Mhm.
For windows, there are single pane, I don't know if it's not a single pane, they're immobilized windows that don't go up and down.
Okay.
We'd replace those with normal house grade windows that go up and down, tilted in.
But in the same locations.
Right, same locations.
Okay. So you just you're fairly confident you can maintain kind of the openings, the windows.
So when my wife and I purchased the house, she liked many facets of the house itself. I liked the barn. I want to keep the barn as much as original as possible. So those doors, those beautiful hinges on the doors, I want to keep everything as close as possible.
So Jen, due to the fact that it's under 1,200 square feet, they don't have to have separate access to the area
You
upstairs? Okay.
No.
Jeffrey, let me ask the board's weighed in for you. The public, chance to weigh in. Any comments, advice? Name and address, please, John.
Jonathan Anderson, 165 8 Lots Road. I live directly across the street.
It was on the planning board for a long time. We trained him well.
Had a chance to meet.
One would hope.
I fully support the scaled down version. I felt the game rail roof would have really turned it into the size of a second house and really look and feel of that. I fully support the use of the accessory apartment. I think it's a great thing that the town does. I think one thing I would like the board to consider is kind of rethinking H. It doesn't really make sense to me as I read through it. I think if you were to go with a 1,200 square foot accessory apartment in one of these buildings, and you were following the 50-50 rule, that means you'd have to have a 2,400 square foot building, which is getting on the scale of a pretty good sized house. So I think, there may be an intent at some point in time, but I wonder if it would make sense for the board to kind of readdress this and think about this a little bit more, because that was the part when I talked to Jeff that we were trying to figure out, is like, what is the intent of that 50% rule, other than scaling this up to a size that gets really big.
Yeah.
I think the intent of, in section D is that the detached accessory apartment shall look like a barn or a garage, so you already have that in there. So I think you have all the protections, so I think just this complicated the situation and kind of forced them to put it up on the second floor, which would have scaled it much bigger. So that was my only thought on that.
Anyone else? It's back to us, guys.
All right, so you do have departmental comments. The
that.
Board of Health is the most significant one. It notes that this house the existing house was approved for a 4-bedroom design, so they need to see the floor plan of the existing house, because if it still has 4 bedrooms in it, they're gonna need to do a septic system upgrade. So in any case, they have to see your floor plan, you need to come see them.
Okay.
So anything we do has to be contingent on Board of Health approval before anything moves forward. And then you have, minimum conditions in my memo, and then just to be safe, I would recommend the condition that while you're doing the actual design of now this apartment on this floor, if there's any major changes to the exterior, that you need to just submit that to the board and let the board just be okay with this and make sure they're okay with that.
My assumption too is you would need a whole new set of plans that represent the new.
Well, I
plans.
mean, this floor plan looks pretty consistent unless you're switching it around. But yeah, I mean, before you pull a building permit, you're gonna need to submit that to us. The board may want it at some point prior to that, but. So whatever you choose. And you gotta do that waiver vote to allow more than 50% of the structure to be.
So I'll make a motion that we waive the 50% on this project.
Need a second? Any other comments?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I was sleeping. Who was the second?
Abstain. Wally. Scott. Scott.
God.
Scott.
You were sleeping too. It wasn't just me.
It's a ventriloquist. Sound the same.
Alright,
Okay.
so you can either wait until you get plans, you can condition the plans have to be submitted at a certain point.
We should get the plans.
Yeah,
Huh?
so,
Yeah, we should.
Okay, so you wanna
Should be the same, but we should get them.
Yeah.
do you
let's
wanna
see.
continue to December 2nd or the 16th?
Faster's better.
I'm open either way, so whatever's good for you all.
If you can have them ready for
That's fine.
December 2nd, then we'll just continue to December 2nd, or we'll go to the 18th.
I can do that.
Second?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so motion to continue to 12.
I'll make a motion to
Two?
continue to 12 too.
Second.
Wally that time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Good.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Tom.
coming in.
Alright, we'll see you on the 2nd with your revised plans.
Thank
I
you.
would actually need them
Don't
as
make it
soon
a
as
habit,
you get them
John.
done. Alrighty.
And 7:40,
Planning board's on.
public hearing, a definitive subdivision modification for La Plante Way. Thanks for waiting. Did the best I could.
That's fine,
No,
that's
it's
fine.
not easy.
Alright, so can somebody read that hearing notice?
Go ahead, Mike Egan's on that.
In accordance with the provisions of MGL C 4181W, the planning board will hold a public hearing on the application of Tomkevich of Sutton, Mass. For modification of his 2-lot definitive subdivision known as La Plante Way off McClellan Road. The applicant seeks to reconfigure the roadway layout, property lines. No new lots will be created. The hearing on this application will be held in the 3rd floor meeting room of the town hall on Monday, November 18th, 2019 at approximately 7:40 PM.
Alright,
Put it in the hour.
Starters, I apologize, I only have 5 copies of the reduced plan.
they do have them on their iPad already, so
Oh,
you're good.
okay, we can share.
I'll take.
And we're up on the screen too.
There's a few paper people though that like paper.
Send it. I was gonna say, give it to the audience. Do you want one, Nick? Okay.
Alrighty.
Everyone's on the same page. Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for
don't
coming in.
recall, Zach
Yeah, just, Zach was on,
was here at a previous meeting, and he talked to you, just to see, before they filed, if the board could be supportive of shifting the lot line. So what you see up on the screen is what Zach discussed at the last meeting, with the board. So you're not changing anything on the ground. The road is constructed, it's in, they're just shifting the lot line. So you'll recall that the night we talked to Zach, we had an aerial that showed a clearing that already exists. And this shifting the lot line would allow the house to shift forward more to the,
away from the,
in this direction, in the direction of the bend, so that that house will have a backyard. You don't need to do really more clearing or anything. It will sit nicely on the terrain as it exists now, in the clearing area that exists now. So it's really just a move to kind of utilize everything as it sits. The assessors submitted some comments about the shed being in the front setback, among a few other things. And then I did submit some comments about I don't know why, but we did not waive granite monuments at McClellan Road, so those either need to put in or that needs to be waived. And I think the assessors made a similar comment to that as well. And then I did note that if that cul-de-sac, when you look at that, if that cul-de-sac loop actually touches the line of the adjacent lot, it creates this unbuildable little blob right there. So that you might wanna just incorporate that whole thing into the bulb of the cul-de-sac, so it kinda looks like a golf club without that little indent out of it. And I hadn't talked to Zach since I made that commentary to him, but it just seemed, and if it doesn't touch the line, there needs to be a blow up of what's going on against that lot line.
I believe on the revised plan, there is a flow, at least on the copy that I have.
All right, let me
I
see.
zoomed in on this one, it looks like.
You can see it on that? I don't have it.
There seems a space between the
He
two
showed
lines.
a blow up,
So-
where he's leaving, yeah,
1.26 feet, yeah.
just so that we're not creating a separate parcel.
Yeah. I would just incorporate it to the to the bulb, but
I would be open to either way.
maybe more people have comments on that than I do. So, or preferences on that. So it's only not even 1.5 feet between the edge of that line and that lot line. So it is still a contiguous lot. There's that weird thing about your lot's not supposed to be less than 50 feet between there and the rear lot line. It's kinda hard to tell where the rear lot line is on this lot though, so. So that was, one of just the one minor comment I had on there. And then they just needed to show the width line, confirm the existing shed will be moved out of the front setback. And then there was just, waivers that were missing on the previous plan. I did not, take a look at that revised plan. And then I think the assessors had some comments as well. They had 14 comments. I think I addressed some of these with the assessor. The plan that they have wasn't stamped because it was just the original PDF. The plan that was submitted was stamped. I believe the spelling on Trillium Run was corrected in the locust plan, but I am not positive on that. Let me look. If not, that's an easy fix. Trillium, yep.
So Jen, I'm reading the notes here from Nick.
Mhm.
on a revised plan, there are no monuments existing or proposed. You talked about them earlier.
Yeah, at the intersection of LaPlante Lane and McClellan Road, that was that comment that I made as well.
Yeah?
That, I don't know, we didn't waive them per the record, so I don't know why. We didn't have them put in the granite monuments, or concrete monuments, or iron pins, or something, where the right-of-way, this right-of-way hits McClellan Road. It's just unusual that we wouldn't do that, and I'm not even
So
seeing.
they should be there.
Yeah, there should be some kind of monument there, whether it be
For everyone.
granite or concrete or an iron pin, it should be something there. The bylaw calls for granite, I believe it's a 4 or a 6-inch granite.
And
But-
that's good for everyone moving forward, not.
But
not-
we often wave it down to concrete, on small subdivisions, but, I don't think we've ever waved it down to pins at an intersection of a town way with a private way or any other way, but. So I just don't, we didn't waive them the first time, and I don't recall, it was a while ago that we did LaPlante Way, so I don't remember why we didn't, why they weren't put in, we definitely didn't waive them. So that should be taken care of.
They can be put in. We need to decide if we want
What
granite.
kind?
What
Whether you
kind?
want granite, whether you want concrete, or whether you're gonna go with pins.
Is there a cost effect, I mean, is it?
Of course it
Yeah,
is.
we're requesting concrete, you know, Zach told me that, the granite is a little more expensive.
Okay.
But, what we were requesting is concrete. And the pins, are we referring to at the corner by McClellan Road,
Mhm.
where the entrance to the, easement is? If I'm not mistaken, you know, I'm not a surveyor or an engineer.
Neither am I.
I believe they did find a pin
Like here?
at the entrance on the right-hand side
over
to
here.
the easement. It's right up in this area. I know that, we initially staked the setbacks of where the house would need to be, and I know the, surveyors at that time found a pin there.
Oh, wait a minute, are you talking more into the lot now?
No?
Or you're talking
No,
out
up
at
on- up on
McClellan?
McClellan Road, this is one of the pins that they found.
All right, yeah, it's just not marked as, but again, I don't have the most recent, is the most recent plan show any, like iron pin found or anything?
Do we have the most recent?
Huh?
Do we have the most recent?
Yeah, that's the one that Bob's holding in his hand.
Take a peek here.
Does it show iron pin found? Yeah, sorry. No, it doesn't show it, yet, so you might have found it, but it's not marked as found, so he did make the monument symbol though,
Okay.
on both those corners. So you're saying in your discussion with them, where those monument symbols are shown, you would request concrete as opposed to granite.
Yes.
Alright, so you would need to vote that waiver. So you wanna, and then the locus should not include map 12 parcel 4, that was taken out of the locus. Shed location, what's going on with the shed? Moving the shed out of that setback? It's in-
The shed will be moved at some point during construction.
Alright, lot width is now shown, I believe, on the, let me just, yeah, lot width, 41330, so that is now shown. Item 5 is the labeling of the dimensions of the old yeah, I tend to concur, so those have been taken off, the labeling of the old cul-de-sac, so those have been removed. What is the distance between the cul-de-sac sideline with the 50-foot radius and the, yeah, you were asking the same question, what's that space there, 1.26 feet. So, what do you think about just including that blob in the right-of-way, or are you good with 1.26 feet?
I just pointing out that there was a very small distance between those two lines,
Mm-hmm.
that you'd have to calculate that to determine what it was, and that you end up with a little piece of land that you can't get to without going over the road. Is that a big deal? That's up to you.
Yeah, So, do you have an opinion on if you just included that blob in the right-of-way? Just cleaner?
You have to change the radius to make it tangent to that property line. So we'd have
Well,
to do some more.
or could you just give a waiver? So that the cul-de-sac basically isn't a rounded bulb, that the edge of the cul-de-sac is that property line, the beginning of the 218.
It doesn't really matter because there isn't gonna be any pavement
Right.
that's parallel to those lines
Exactly,
anyway.
right.
I've got my planning board hat on that says, if we say this really doesn't matter, sometime in the future, someone's gonna come in here with 1.5 feet, a sliver, and say, well, you did it,
What the heck
you
did
did
you
it
do?
there, so that means you need to do it for me too. I'd rather make it, I'd rather
I just really,
recognize that it makes no sense, so let's just do some good planning and make this.
You'd have to
No,
ride your
one-
bicycle into that little piece.
Yeah. It's
Otherwise
just,
you're trespassing.
it's not this one, I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, that's the kind of stuff that if we don't address it now,
Comes
some,
back.
some it'll be in here.
just bring that 50-foot radius, just bring it right over to the lot line, and
Yeah.
then run down the lot line and have that be the cul-de-sac right-of-way. So you've got a cul-de-sac
this,
right-of-way with
give
like a
that to
golf
that.
club.
Yeah,
Right.
give that to
And
that.
the rest is
Pushes
this
it
lot.
over, just that goes to there.
So that little, you see what I'm saying, Tom? Yeah, so just put the blob in the right-of-way. And then we just need to decide if there's any other waivers.
Connect the cul-de-sac
Right.
to the existing
Right.
lot line.
Yeah.
And eliminate this small parcel.
Yeah, just
Right.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go
So you've
away.
just got a right-of-way. That's all right-of-way.
It's really just planning board stuff, but
Yeah.
boy, something like that. so-
Now, and then, so that was that question from Nick. I didn't know what Nick was talking about on number 1, but I think it was related to the covenant that we didn't know was closed out, and we now know the covenant was this lot was released. And the covenant's all closed and everything's released, so there's no restrictions on sale
Yes.
anymore, and that was not clear, we couldn't find the release, and Tammy tracked it down.
I found my copy of the
Right,
release.
and our
And it has
wonderful
been
assistant
recorded.
tracked it down, so we know there's no transfer issues. Talked about the stamp, Trillium has been fixed. I'm sorry, yes, Trillium has been fixed, it's really small, in the locust plan. The labeling's been fixed. The waivers section after 5D6 should plant be plan, it absolutely should be. 5D6, limit requirement for cable distribution. Plan, yeah, that should be plan, not plant. Unless anybody knows what a cable distribution plant is.
That is the way it's written in the bylaw.
It is, you're totally right, so that needs to be fixed. No proposed monuments are shown, and we just talked about that. Huh?
It's plant.
It says plant, yes, he's right. So, but it should be plan, and we need to fix that. All right, so, here's the question. So we just need to incorporate the blob into the cul-de-sac, change plant to plan, and, just make sure, once we plop that into the cul-de-sac, that no other waivers are necessary. So, what do you wanna do?
We have some, comments we should read into the record.
Mhm.
Have a comment from the, fire department. No.
No issues or comments at this time.
All right, and we also got a comment from the police department.
They're okay.
Okay. And no one else commented, but it's important to get those in there. Yeah.
Fees to the town are current, right?
Okay, go ahead, Jen. Now we're ready.
All right, so, you wanna at least let's act on that waiver on the monuments of the road.
I make a motion to grant a waiver to use concrete monuments instead of granite.
Second.
Any other comments? Nope. Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Alright, so you got concrete monuments at the road. Now you just gotta decide what we wanna do. If you want to, or what you wanna do. I do not have a mouse in my
Yeah.
pocket and do not vote on things. So, you do have minimum conditions of approval. Do you want them to revise this plan and make sure there's no other waivers that are necessary and have them come back on December second, nice and clean?
Should,
in my opinion. Early on the agenda.
Just clean it up on the
just
second
clean
and
it
be
up,
done?
that way we know
Clear,
there's no
clear
other
marching
waivers.
orders.
Yeah.
And if you come in with all that stuff, you'll be early on the agenda.
Revise the plans that we have
Right.
to incorporate that small parcel
Yep.
as part of the cul-de-sac.
Correct.
Yeah, and then I'll go
Show the
with Zach,
markers.
we'll go over those subdivision requirements and make sure that doesn't trip any other waivers that need to be granted.
First
And-
guy on the agenda? That'll be a
yeah,
fast- That'll be a fast one.
yeah,
Yeah, as long as he
7:10.
comes on what he needs, we're good to go.
Alright, so 7:10 on 12/2. Oh, wait a minute. We did, when did we do, oh no, we just did the other guy.
That'll
Did
be.
we give him a time?
No, we did not, so we can push him. Yeah,
This
we
is
should've,
fast.
darn.
Yeah.
Alright, so 7:10 on 12/2 then would be the motion for this.
Make a motion to continue this hearing until December 2nd at 7:10 PM.
Second.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Alright,
Good job.
see you with a nice clean plan on the second.
Mm-hmm.
Have Zach give me a ring.
Corresponding, thank you, Debbie.
Alright, now we,
So,
are you all set? Alright, now we have to go back to just some board business.
Correspondence, yeah.
Alright, so the first thing is your draft meeting schedule for next year. Take a good look at it, because it'll look a little different. You'll see you'll see 2 months in particular, August and November, where it looks like you have 3 meetings. But we're just picking up the last week of the month, so that the August 31st is really your first September meeting. And the last November meeting is really your first December meeting.
Yep.
So just take a look at those and make sure what you know right now, if you have any big conflicts with these. So we won't vote on this until at least next meeting, or maybe the 18th, but just take a look at your schedules. So that's the first thing. I'm catching up on my planning reading, so you'll be getting a whole bunch of articles, and I'm sure you'll be thrilled about that. So the first article was just really interesting because it details cannabis, how they regulate cannabis across the country. And I made sure that Tammy color copied this one page, because it's kind of interesting in terms of which states where things are legal for medical use, legal for medical use with a limited THC content, prohibited for any use, and decriminalized. So there's 3 states where you're prohibited altogether, but one of those 3 states, they're not gonna write you up on it. It's decriminalized, so you can't do it, but I'm not gonna write you up on it. So it's just an interesting
That's
map,
weird.
and this story was just a very interesting take on the whole subject. So I thought I'd just share it with you.
So Jen, what does it stand in Sutton? We had the moratorium because we voted.
Yeah, that moratorium's already been released.
Right, and
So what we have now, and this is something you need to think deeply on, because we have to act on this at spring town meeting, okay? So this is the other reason this was very timely. In the state of Massachusetts, every town has to allow medical marijuana in all forms. So dispensaries, growing, testing, distribution, within their town somewhere. Every municipality in the state of Massachusetts, medical.
no limits. I mean, if 10 people came in, would.
You know what, no, you can limit it to a certain percentage of the number of liquor licenses,
I
blah,
thought that
blah,
was
blah,
just,
blah. Actually, no, it is no limits. It's limited regionally by the Cannabis Control Commission and the Department of Public Health.
but the recreational one is limited by
Recreational, you limit it how you vote it.
30%.
Right, so in Sutton, we didn't limit it in Sutton, cause we have so few
Are
licenses.
we limited,
We limited where, and we said no retail. So in Sutton, adult use or recreational marijuana, you cannot retail it, you can't have a retail store in Sutton anywhere. You can grow it, you can have testing labs, you can, have like a transport company that's based here, that
but we
distributes
will
elsewhere.
never have a retail.
but you cannot have a retail store in Sutton. So, we had to pick locations for both of those uses. We picked South Sutton Commerce Park. So our marijuana overlay business district is South Sutton Commerce Park. And the problem being, South Sutton Commerce Park is now full. You always have to have an area where you allow marijuana business uses. So at Springtown meeting, we have to designate a new part of town for a marijuana overlay business district. So we have to, because if we do not, it can go anywhere.
Now,
Okay?
how do we get a recreational marijuana license? What procedure would the town have if we wanted to approve
If you
it?
wanted to do a retail store, you mean?
Yeah.
You go back to town meeting, and it goes to at least a town meeting vote, and then I have to review my thinking cap. It may also need a ballot vote. But I would have to review that. So it needs at least a town meeting vote. It may also need a ballot vote if you wanna reconsider whether you allow retail stores or not. And then those are capped at 3% revenue, as I think you were going there.
And that just shows how people have changed about this.
Yeah, the mindset has definitely
Mindset.
changed over the years.
And then
So-
myself included.
Right.
I mean, I see these things all the time.
Right, so you need to put on big fat thinking caps and decide where the marijuana overlay business district is going to shift to in the town of Sutton.
In a million years ago, it was brought to our attention that Sutton didn't have an adult entertainment district.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we didn't have one, that meant it could be anywhere. So we put the adult entertainment district in a gravel pit somewhere. Didn't even have a road to it, but the fact of the matter was, if someone
allowed.
wanted to have an adult.
It's allowed, yeah.
Yeah, it's allowed, so that you gotta buy Bill Rose and the marijuana, we need to think about marijuana.
Yeah, so
And so you have to
do
pick a spot, doesn't necessarily have to be a spot that will never get used, but.
Right,
you
and
have
right
to-
now, you're talking about medical dispensaries, you're talking about growing facilities. Growing facilities are the big thing right now, and in a location
We
like,
probably missed the boat on
like, yeah, we may well have missed the boat. Though we are still getting calls, literally, I got 3 calls last week asking about if we allow retail. 3 calls just last week, I already got 1 today. So we may have missed the boat, we may not have missed the boat. But we have to, whether you like it, you don't like it, you have to have a marijuana area, you have to. Or it can go anywhere. So look at the map, be thinking about it, because we're gonna try a slightly different process this year with the bylaw changes, where I really want us to dig in and have a working session or 2 before we see any hearing notices. So we'll be working hard no later than the month of February, talking about bylaw changes going into that Springtown meeting, so. And that has to be one of them.
Not 10 o'clock at night.
Not 10 o'clock at night, no, just sessions that are only about bylaw changes.
Yeah, I drive home most days on 146, and I just, for whatever it's worth, and I notice on Sundays at 11 o'clock in the morning, I used to see that cul-de-sac on the other side of 146.
Yeah, North Main
That
and
road's
Millbury.
nowhere, thinking, boy, was that the dumbest thing that anyone ever built? Parking lot's full. It's just a mini Blackstone Mall. It's just full, and that's where the world is on Sunday. People spend money on recreation, and apparently, who would have thought? So there's places in Sutton that make no sense right now, but it's amazing. Yeah, I think on the grow facilities, the train has left the station. It's not even in sight. It's gone. They can't afford. You can't afford to grow inside. It's not. As more and more states come online, and you're going to be able to move it between state lines, it's just going to be growing outside in hot, humid climates in trucked places. You can't compete with that.
So think about that. The second article I gave you, which was just interesting, features actually, the photo here is inside Atlas Box, or Unified. And this is showcasing, these are facts about business in the Blackstone Valley. And this photograph showcases DDT and other technical schools partnerships with companies like Unified, Prime Metals, to really kind of interest that young crop of individuals and try to get them into these industries where there's in so much need of this kind of technical skill and just don't have it. But this was just an interesting little snapshot with some of the, comparing the tax rates in our surrounding towns, the combined property levels in the Blackstone Valley year to year, the average commuting times for people that live in Sutton and the areas around us. Just a nice little snapshot of Blackstone Valley facts and a nice feature on companies like Unified who do these awesome educational partnerships that really help grow technology in the future and supply those needs. So I just thought I would share that with you.
Thank you.
So you'll be getting a bunch more of those because I'm knee deep in my reading box and there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. And I will be doing a list. I gotta work with Nikki on some of it because we need to do a hearing for subdivision rules and regs changes. That's long overdue. And I have a rough list for some bylaw changes, and we'll need to narrow that down to what needs to go to Springtown meeting, which the selectmen aren't warm on zoning stuff on Springtown meeting. MOBD, the marijuana has to go. And then what would go to Fall Town meeting. So I'll be roughing up that list. You'll be seeing that soon. Okay? Got anything else?
You sent us.
Oh, what was that one? Oh, this is the wall. So 382 West Sutton, was that? We had granted that permit, and what I sent you was some pictures that were taken of the wall when we granted the permit. And one of the conditions was they asked if they could take it down, get all the crap out of it, and put it back. And the approval, you said yes, but it needs to look pretty much the same after as it does now. So maintain the integrity of the type of build. I got some complaints last week that while lovely, people did not think those walls looked anything like the old walls. And it might have just been that the old walls are really overgrown. So I did not go look at the walls. I farmed it out to the people in charge.
No, and they're
It's
right.
it's a beautiful wall,
Yeah, they're right though.
but it does not look like your classic Sutton stone wall.
Does it look like the walls in the pictures at all?
Very,
Pictures that I sent
very
you?
neat and squared.
Very neat
Yeah.
and square and just very professional job on that wall.
So what do you
Good
wanna do?
job.
Do you wanna do anything? What do you wanna do?
I think,
It's a stone wall.
for myself anyways, it appeared to me that they took the stones that were there, they removed all the brush.
Right.
I didn't see any stones coming in, and the walls I thought they looked like they looked the day they were built, probably. And that,
Like this. Do they look like that without all the crap?
and when something is left, for as long as that stone wall was left, with all the debris, it starts falling apart.
I mean,
thought
what
it
it
looked
looks
great.
like now.
Thought
Oh, I
it-
love the wall.
Thought it was much better, and that's different than taking all these stones off-site and coming in with little skinny pieces of shale and saying it's the same wall.
We've seen that before.
Yeah, we've seen that before, and those are two different things.
That controversy.
All right, so
I
what
never
I'm hearing-
expected they would do that good of a job of writing the wall. That was but does it look different? Absolutely. I think.
I don't think it's a bad different.
What do you think?
There's a stream next door,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I first saw this wall, look at this, then I looked at the wall on the stream,
Uh-huh.
they're very similar,
Okay.
which I was kinda surprised. And I don't know, that wall on the stream has been there ever since I've been here. I have no idea when that was.
That was rebuilt
stone.
in the last 20 years.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it matched that.
So maybe that's more important, that it looks consistent
Yeah.
with what was done in the area. even though I can remember him standing there saying, I'll put it back exactly the same,
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
word for word, right?
Word for word.
Any other board members?
Nick had a question.
No other comments for you guys?
One thing you gotta look at is where's the street line? The street line may be on the pavement side of that wall, cause that's a Worcester County highway layout. If the wall is totally on his property, he can do anything he wants with it, it doesn't apply to this.
Yeah, well, he's the one that submitted for a public hearing because he thought it was, or he said it was on the line.
Yeah, I realize that.
But,
I was here, I heard it,
yep,
and it isn't at all like it was after he cleaned off all the weeds and stuff, no question.
so do you just
I'm
look the
reminded-
other way? Do you send him a letter saying, hey,
Well, I'm reminded of the time that we had the fellow across from the high school, there was a blight,
hemlock?
with the hemlock trees, so he had the trees taken down, and, all the walls were broken apart and all the stones were left there. And then somehow he ended up before us because he was on a scenic road and he had taken a wall apart. He came in and explained why, and then talked about what it was like trying to get someone to build a stone wall. So it took him 4 or 5 pieces that he hired people, he told people to come in and work for an hour and show me the stone wall you're gonna build me with these stones. And when he finally found the guy that was gonna do a good job, it's the same guy that did the walls up at Waters Farm, he was informed he was gonna be it's a 3-year wait to get someone who knows what he's doing to build a stone wall. And at that particular hearing, I was happy we didn't give him a fine, and I pointed out that we could look across the street on Boston Road. Stone walls around the school are a disaster. All the stones are there. If you wanted to pay someone, he wouldn't have to go out and buy stones. He could make them look as nice as the stone walls on that are on the property that you're looking at there. But it takes time and money to take all the stones in there and put them right. And 100 years from now, they're not gonna look like that anymore. They're all gonna fall down anyways. But that was done without asphalt.
That's right.
Never expected it to come out that nice.
I said we look the other way. They contingent with the stone wall that's next door. It's
So, nada, like I said, I am bringing this to you because I got calls
Unbelievable.
saying it's lovely, but other people were in the meeting too. And we're like,
I wouldn't
said he was
mind
gonna put
having
it
next
back
to my
like that,
house.
it doesn't look like that.
I wouldn't mind having that next to my house.
So,
But he
Probably
used the
would
same,
be,
too,
probably
right.
build
but it's
one.
true, he used the same stone.
he did use the same
He did.
stone.
Yeah,
so.
it's all the stone that's there.
I mean, they were working on that wall for multiple weeks. I saw them out there working on it.
So just leave it,
Yeah, that's my opinion.
alright.
This uses the same stones. He did a nice job.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, make him tear it down again.
Yeah.
And
It's not as egregious as another situation we had.
Yeah.
We've had worse.
Yes,
Oh,
definitely,
way.
we've had worse.
Yeah, I remember one on Central Turnpike
Central Turnpike.
Just after Purgatory. Yeah.
where he broke every stone.
Yeah. That's look like a stone wall from Sutton. That's
Hudson Road,
Burbank Road.
he didn't
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
bother to come in before.
if he had trucked in stones and all that, then that'd be a different story, I think. But using the same stones,
Okay,
Yeah.
alright. Like I said, I got the calls. That's why I wanted you to go look at it and tell me what you thought, cause you're the people that make the decision on these permits.
Yeah,
so.
what are the options? They make him tear it down and do it over again?
Yeah, you make him tear it down, or you at least send him, you can
Make it
send him a
look
letter
sloppy.
saying, hey, I just wanna let you know, we got some complaints, and
No, waste of ink.
you probably shouldn't say it's gonna look exactly like that if it's not gonna look exactly like that, but whatever, cause you didn't
Waste of
bring
your
in
time.
stone. Huh?
Waste of your time as
Maybe
a
we need
taxpayer.
some nice trees somewhere.
You didn't take any trees down, I don't think, putting in the wall.
That looked great. Okay.
So just, alright, I get where you're going on that, so I will,
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
I,
who's
Yep,
the
yep.
second?
me,
I would.
Scott?
I'll second it.
I whispered it.
Jen, I was trying to,